Hi, Connie here. We are going to cure a piece of fish today, and normally we use salmon for this, but today we've got a lovely piece of steelhead trout, and we have washed it and we have patted it dry, so it's been drying for a few minutes. So we're ready now with our ingredients. We've got some coarse pickling salt, some sugar, and some fresh lemons. We've got a fresh horseradish root here, and a beet root, and some dill. That's all we need. So the pickling salt, that's about a cup, a little more than a cup there. So I'm going to put roughly a third of that into the bottom of my dish, which is lined with saran wrap. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit, about a third of the sugar in there as well. And then I'm going to take my fish. Oops. Lay it in the dish. Okay. Traditionally, some chefs like to debone their fish before they cure it. I just take out any big ones that I find. I find it just as easy to debone it as I'm cutting it. So there's a big one right there. So there's going to be a couple of those in here, and just take them out. But again, I find it just as easy to do this as I'm slicing the cured fish at the end. So those are the only two really big ones in there. Okay, so we are going to now shake some more of the salt on, just a little bit of it, just a little bit, leave some there, and we're going to go in with our beetroot first. So beetroot is raw. We're just going to shave the beetroot all over the fish, and what this is going to do, it's going to give it a pink tinge when it's done. It looks really interesting for plating. Okay. Now we're going to go in with the horseradish root. You don't need too much of this because it's really strong. And both these ingredients, the beetroot and the horseradish, are not part of the traditional classic Gravlax recipe. This is something I learned from Jamie Oliver. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so that is good there. Okay, now we go in with the rest of the salt. Always seems like a lot of salt, but that's what you're actually doing, is you're cooking the fish with the salt. That's the curing process. Okay, and sugar, about a third to a half the amount of the salt. You can experiment with your ratios of salt to sugar and see what you like. We like ours about a third to a cup and a half of salt. Okay, that's that. Now we go in with the dill. Dill, of course, is part of the classic Gravlax recipe. I've chopped up about there's probably about three-quarters of a cup of dill there. You can use as much or as little of this as you like. I love the flavor of dill, and so I like to be pretty liberal. Sometimes I use even more than this. The stems are fine as well, because after the fish is cured, we're washing all of this away. Okay, and then finally, we're going to have our lemon juice. I like to always use fresh lemon juice. I don't use lemon juice out of a bottle for this at all. So here, I'm just going to squeeze. Don't worry about the pits, because like I said, it's all going to be washed off at the end of the curing process. So I'm going to save the rind, because I'm going to chop up the rind and pop it right in there with the fish as well. So the fork here, I really love this technique, is you just twist your fork inside your lemon and it will bring out all the juice. I don't use any fancy schmancy squeezers. I find this technique just works fantastic for getting all the juice out of the lemon. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab a knife here. And I'm just going to chop up the remaining lemon. Just pop that all in there. So those are all the ingredients that you need. There is an option of sprinkling a little bit of vodka on the fish, that is something that I do once in a while, but generally in this household we like to drink our vodka like a fish as opposed to letting the fish drink our vodka. Okay, so here I'm going to close this up. Close that up. Okay, it's not quite closing, but it doesn't matter because I've left enough plastic wrap so that it all gets covered up. So you want it completely nicely sealed. And I'm not too worried about spillage because I've got this nice plate dish that will catch any spillage if it seeps out. Okay, so that's nice and airtight. Squeeze all the air out. Okay. And now I'm going to sit a dish right on top of Okay, so then you got to sit something heavy on top. So if you have a piece of brick wrapped in tin foil, that's good. I don't have that. So I've got this nice heavy glass dish, which is not quite heavy enough. So I'm adding a molcajete, which is like a stone pestle mortar dish. So there it is. I'm probably going to be, I'll put this in the fridge, and in a few hours I'll just check it to make sure that I've got enough weight on it. I might move it around a little bit, but this will cure in the fridge. This piece of fish I think is going to take 2 days. Different size pieces of fish and different fish with different fat content takes a different amount of time. So generally about 2 days for your Gravlax. If it's a huge piece, maybe 3 days. Okay, so thank you. That's it. It's going in the fridge.